Buddy, welcome to this episode 135 of the Thoughtium Navigating Now virtual roundtable series. I am Anthony Ewing, CEO, co-founder here at Thoughtium, and I am joined by Chris Pieta, a three-time guest at the Navigating Now virtual roundtable. We will do some more reintroduction here in a moment, but we want to first thank everybody for joining us this Thursday afternoon. We go live every Thursday afternoon at 3 o'clock Central. We particularly want to welcome our LinkedIn community. This is a growing community of leaders and professionals, both in and outside of our network that tune in, or maybe you're seeing a recording of this. We want to welcome you to the Thoughtium community. We also go live to Facebook and YouTube. You can find all episodes, both today's episode and all previous at thougtium.com/live. And today, episode 135 is all about how to build and scale a client services business. Thoughtium being a client services business in service of other B2B businesses. We are in this game every day. And we are so passionate about the work that we do with our clients, but we're also very passionate about building and creating our own story as a client services business. And today we have Chris Pieta, founder and creative director at Pieta Productions, who has built and scaled his own client services business that has evolved multiple times over the course of the last now 4 years. And we've brought him back to the table to give us some insights and some updates as to the evolution of his business. And these are going to be great insights for anybody who is thinking about starting a business of your own, particularly a client services business where you are the service or you are the product. Today is going to be all about the dirt, right? We have a little bit of the clouds and the dirt. Today is going to be all about the dirt, the day-to-day execution that's required and the day-to-day mentality that's required to start your own business. That's what this roundtable is all about. And Chris, we want to welcome you back to the table.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be back for round 3 now.
Yeah, absolutely. And thankfully we get to do a couple of these in person. It's always nice. Chris actually joined us for a big networking event that we just came out of here at WeWork in Chicago. And we were sitting around a table of other small business owners. Really just for the first time in a couple of years, we got together as a WeWork community and we started talking about, those issues and opportunities that we're all here to solve. And I would say, 80% of the conversation today with a group of 20 other business owners was around how we tell our story in service of our business and also in service of our brand. People are still really trying to figure out how to develop and grow brand that is supportive of, building successful and sustainable businesses. And that's something we're very passionate about. And it's something that's been really the backbone of building Pieta Productions. So, Chris, tell us what you're focused on currently.
Yeah, so these days I'm primarily focused on my newer company, Creative Biz Launch, which is an education company. So I've been really focused on building my photography business for the past 3 years. And this year I sort of pivoted towards this education company. As I was building that photography company the past 3 years, I was sharing lessons online through social media, through email newsletters with my audience. And a lot of people resonated with a lot of those lessons. And so much so that people were able to even quit their jobs based on the stuff I was saying. So I saw how impactful this was. So I started building out an education business on top of my photography business. And I just started spending more and more time with that. I found I was impacting more and more people with that. And this year I've kind of flipped to being 80% education company and 20% Pieta Productions, my photography business, which has been a big shift for me.
And you just launched your third cohort of Creative Biz Launch?
Yeah, we're open this week.
You're enrolling currently this week. And how's that going?
Good so far. It's been a strong marketing push, a lot of interest in the program. A lot of the enrollments come the last couple of days of the cohort, but I'm really excited to get new students inside the program because so far the results I've heard from it have been just mind blowing. I'm shocked how much the students have been enjoying the course and seeing results from it. So it's exciting to get more people in there and be able to help more and more students because that's really what the mission's all about, just being to help more creatives who don't know how to really monetize their passion. I kind of step in and be like, this is how you get clients. This is how you scale your business. This is how you build to be something bigger than just yourself.
I love that. And I want to get a little bit into this transition into, you becoming an education company, if you will. But I almost want to go back to, I think the foundation of what makes you a successful entrepreneur is a strand of DNA that I know that you and I share and a lot of people on the team share. And that is that uh, you are so focused on and celebrating of the process. And I know that that's a term that's thrown out there a lot. Like it's all about the process. It's not about the destination. It's about the journey. But more specifically, when I first met you a handful of years ago, what I learned right away is that you are a systems-oriented individual, and you then leverage that as almost like your superpower of building and scaling a business that really is fairly lean, right? For the first few years, it was just you, and then you started kind of building a team. But the only way that I saw you successfully build and scale Pieta Productions was the fact that you had incredible systems in place. Tell me a little bit about that mentality. Tell me at times maybe there were times when maybe you questioned that mentality, and tell me what are the 1 or 2 or 3 systems that you've put in place from day one that have really served you well.
Yeah, that's spot on. Like I'm very like process over outcome driven, which I think is kind of required as like an entrepreneur, because the work you do today, you might not see results for a week, you might not see results for 6 months down the road. So it's important to be able to focus on the process rather than the outcome, which is super cliche, but that's always worked for me. I have like evidence that works for me, so I continue doing that. And mentally, that's easier for yourself, because if your goal is to do these 10 actions today, you just have to do those 10 actions. You're not worried about whether you're going to sign a client deal today or get a course enrollment or whatever. You're just worried about the work that you can do. So building systems that enable yourself to perform the things that you need to do every single day, I think that's important. When we talk in terms of systems, it's kind of like a somewhat vague term that a lot of people do throw around, and some people might not know what like a system is. For me, it's just like it could be as simple as like a checklist that I want to go through before I sent an email out to my students. So to make sure to change the subject line, proofread it, make sure all the links work. So a simple system like that. But it can get really complex with my photography company. I was doing a lot of client outreach, cold emailing. So I built a really incredible system around that, all the way from finding the right people to reach out to, the right companies, and within those companies, finding the marketing directors, systemizing that approach through various softwares, and then automating parts of it using other softwares and bring it all together so that you're only required to do certain amounts of the puzzle, and softwares do other pieces of the puzzle, and you just kind of hop in at the end to book those sales calls with those leads. That's part of the stuff that I teach to like my students, because I think systemizing a process makes it a lot less intimidating, because reaching out to 100 companies sounds very intimidating, but you have a system in place that allows you to do that consistently. It becomes more about like playing this game rather than trying to cold pitch all these companies every single time. So I think systems are really key to building a successful business, especially as a solopreneur.
It's so underrated, the value of putting good systems in place. And again, this is not just theory, this is practical application. I mean, I saw you in 4 years build a very successful business from like your apartment here in the West Loop.
Yeah.
And you and I very early on talked about like how fortunate we are as business owners, as small business owners, that we have the tools that we do today to be able to put these systems in place without huge capital investment. Your email outreach system is on the back of consumer grade tools that everybody has access to. It requires the kind of mentality of being able to design effective communications. But in terms of like scaling that and building a user database and building an outreach database, like the tools are there and they're free. And so, that was part of the discussion that we had with this group of small business owners today, is that just acknowledging that there's never been a better time to start a small business. Now, that means that you are one of a lot more product photographers, educators in the space that are out there trying to do the same thing. So tell us a little bit about, how maybe you've differentiated yourself in the client services space over the course of the last 4 years.
Yeah, that's a good question, because a lot of in my industry, like product photography in general, you hear people say it's a saturated industry. That term's thrown a lot. thrown around a lot because there's a lot of photographers out there, and a lot of photographers that are struggling to get clients. So a lot of the time, they think that it's saturated. But in my head, there's a lot of time there's a disconnect between the art side of it and then like the business side of it. So a lot of photographers are trying to sell their art rather than provide like sell the value they provide to companies. So like product photographers, at the end of the day, they help companies sell more products. And if you can be clear in your communication with companies that that's what you offer, it's a lot easier to differentiate yourself in like a sea of photographers. Because when people say, "Oh, I take pretty pictures of your coffee," versus my photos will increase your sales 10% for your online coffee shop. So I think the way you communicate your value is really important there. And also,
we're in a world here where we typically have mic stands. We like to go old school and we hold the mics, and unfortunately that makes it very sensitive. So yeah, a little bit closer.
So a little bit closer.
Yeah.
So communicating your value is very important, and also the way you present yourself to clients. So photographers usually will, at least from what I've experienced, and my peers will try and make it about themselves versus the client. So if you put yourself in the client's shoes about why they're hiring you and making that top of mind for everything you do, from website design to how you communicate via email to your portfolio, I think that's a great way to differentiate yourself. Just figure out like what your clients want and then build that on top of that versus what you think you want.
I love that. And that mentality has shaped drastically your business over the course of the last few years. So we probably could have started the episode by clarifying that, Chris, Pieta Productions started as a product photography business, which is client services. You were, reaching out to, companies that had products, and you were saying, hey, I've got this incredible portfolio. How would you like to kind of move your business, and how does photography play into that? And you were gaining a clientele based on that. And the more that you did that, the more that you felt that your differentiator was education. And so this is like the result of what you were just speaking to, which is making sure that we have our eyes and ears open to like the market that is speaking back to us, saying, hey, like, yes, you're a great product photography business, but also you're doing a wonderful job and adding a ton of value, educating people. More people want education. There's a real value prop here. And that allowed you to say, I should invest more in the education side. And ultimately that allowed you to essentially flip your business model to where you're predominantly now educating other photographers on how to build for product photography businesses. And this all happened within 4 years.
Yeah.
So tell us about that transition. Like, what were some of the leading indicators? How was the market? What were you hearing from the market saying, hey, like, you could be a successful product photographer, but you could be even more successful if you went all in on educating? What were some of the indicators there?
Yeah, that was definitely a very tough choice for me to make, because I had a lot of success with the product photography, but I didn't know if the educational side would be successful. So about a year and a half into the product photography journey, I started like a YouTube channel, started posting on social media, just how to take photos, then more so how to get clients. And my audience really resonated with the business side of things. So how do I get clients? How do I negotiate a higher rate? Stuff like that. And then I started getting more comments like, this helped me land this client. I was able to quit my job because of this stuff. So I just started hearing this really positive feedback, which I just was really fulfilling for me. So like a selfish reason, like it just felt good to share this stuff. So I just enjoyed it a bit more than the client side of things. So I tried figuring out how to build this into a bigger company, because I wasn't going to survive off of YouTube money for this. So I had to build a product on top of this education, which then became Creative Biz Launch, which is the online course that teaches photographers and videographers how to get clients. And from there, it was just, number one was try and build like an imperfect product. So something that was pretty decent, but mainly to gauge interest, whether people actually wanted this product. People did want it. So from there, I just built into something even bigger, and then launched it publicly. And that's really been what I've been working on now, just making this like the best online education possible for creatives and marketing it, and just, making sure everyone inside the program succeeds as well. So a lot of different, it's been a busy year.
So I love that. So you almost have like different lines of business now. You've got Pieta Productions, the product photography business. You've got Creative Biz Launch, which is the education side of the business.
Mm-hmm.
You also have Chris Pieta, the personal brand.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I think is so unique about the way that you have built client services businesses, now businesses plural, is that the common thread through the evolution of these businesses and the launch of these businesses is that you've built brand outside of these particular service lines.
Mm-hmm.
So like from day one, you were building Chris Pieta, the brand, which was you on YouTube, providing value, demonstrating your practitionership. And we joke because, you've done YouTube videos, you've done Instagram content on a myriad of different topics, not just product photography, but how to build a small business. You've even done tech reviews, which I know was very specific and targeted. There was a very calculated reason for doing that, drawing more eyes, pouring into your target market. But like this through line of like, no matter where my business goes, I'm going to continue to tell the brand story of Chris Pieta. Is what I believe has set you up for success. Maybe that's ingredient number 2, a systems thinker and doer. And secondly, building brand outside of your actual business, a brand that is universal, that any business can plug into, any of your business units can plug into. So tell us a little bit about, that mentality, because I think that also helps maybe folks that are thinking about building small business, or they're just getting into, they've just gone out as a solo practitioner or a solo consultant, or they've just started a business and they're in this paralyzed state of like, I don't want to create content. I don't want to tell the story because I don't know what my business is yet. And I'm here to say that it's the exact opposite. You don't even need a business before you can start building brand, telling the story, becoming a media company. And that's like a mentality that I know you and I are very passionate about. So tell us a little bit about how that's worked out for you.
Yeah, I think brand is really, really important in terms of building any business. And it's like you mentioned, it's best to start before you have a business, honestly, because people, they connect more with you as the person, as the entrepreneur behind the business rather than the business itself. So for me, like I started like posting photos on Instagram like years before I actually had a product photography business, just for fun. And through that, I've just progressed to building these businesses through, on top of that. And the entire time I was kind of like documenting it through my social media channels, just building the brand. And I think brand it's something that's built over years and years and years. You can't really rush this, but it's really important to start as soon as possible before you even have an idea of what your brand's going to be. Just posting what you're passionate about and sharing that with the world, because people will resonate with that. And then from there, you can start posting about your business once you figure out what that's going to be. And a portion of your audience will really resonate with that. So, and like for me, like I've switched what my business is, and parts of my audience that were watching me just build my product photography company that weren't really interested in that. Now, maybe they're interested in my education business because they want to build an education business like that for themselves. So you never know like who's watching, and it's great to like start building as early as possible and not really seeking perfection, just like posting content out there.
Oh, I love that. It's like you get this kind of spectrum or two different schools of thought. One is, I've never met a successful business owner that said that they went away for 2 years and locked themselves in a conference room and like figured out the perfect business. And when they were ready to launch, they launched it and it was so successful. I've never met a successful business owner that didn't build a business by being in the work. And as well, I think we also have some entrepreneurs out there, and it's easy for me even sometimes to get caught in the mentality of like, well, I'll just see where the market takes me. And once we get to a viable business model, that's when we will start building brand and putting messaging and education out there. Those are two extreme ends of the spectrum that I feel like are traps for us entrepreneurs. We need to be in the middle, which is like, we need to be in the work. We need to be in our business. And at the same time, we need to be building brand that is universal, that sits outside of our business. Thoughtium here, we're a experience-led management consulting firm. We joke that if in 5 years we're a t-shirt company, we have a strong brand behind Thoughtium and some pretty incredible faces behind it that are actively telling the story in the marketplace. And that story is not just about our consulting services. That story is about creating a space. And creating the space is the brand. And that brand is universal. And that brand has ethos, it has emotion, it has our people behind it, it has the way we develop community. There is a myriad of different businesses and business models that can plug into that brand.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's what you're building in Chris Pieta, the brand,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is really unique and a big, big differentiator.
Yeah, I think that's key. Everything you said there is spot on,
Yeah.
especially the trying not to like lock yourself in a room and create the perfect idea before you actually launch it. That's been like, just starting has been such a core like pillar of like anything I've done, from like starting a YouTube channel. Like I didn't know where it was going to go. I thought this was going to be like me teaching how to take great photos of like the Chicago skyline. And now I'm teaching photographers how to land clients and like live their dream jobs. And I had no idea it was going to be that, but I started posting videos, and I posted like 30 before I posted one about business, but that one really resonated with people. And if I didn't post those 30 videos before then, I wouldn't have like those skills, the confidence on camera, those things I built up with those first 30 videos that led to me actually having this education company.
Yeah.
And I started with something imperfect, showed up very consistently, and then it led to these opportunities.
I'll never forget. It's kind of a funny story. I'll never forget when I decided to go out on my own in 2016, and I decided that I was going to launch this business as Thoughtium, not as Anthony Ewing Consulting Services or Anthony Ewing and Associates.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very, very passionate and intent about starting to cultivate the Thoughtium name, the Thoughtium brand, the idea of creating the space well before I even had my first client.
Mm-hmm.
And I was spending a lot of time on this. And I had just left my full-time job at a very exciting, well-established mid-size startup organization. And I was living in San Francisco at the time, and I came home for a weekend to tell my parents that I was going to leave this full-time job and start my own thing. And after they spent a couple minutes trying to understand how to even pronounce Thoughtium and understand what it is, I told them about my approach and the fact that I was going to be creating these YouTube videos that were just talking about my passions in learning and development and some of the things that I was seeing working for these large organizations. And my parents asked immediately the question that most parents would ask, which is, how will you make money? You don't have a client. How will you make money? And I said, well, I'm going to build this brand, and I'm going to build something bigger than just Anthony Ewing, the name.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really hoping to get a couple of great clients through that. And I'm going to start from there, but I really want to focus on this brand. My mom looked me straight in the eye over like a nice steak dinner on their back porch and said, so you're going to make YouTube videos. And at the time, 5-6 years ago, like that wasn't that wasn't like the norm whatsoever, especially in my generation. And at the time, maybe there were times when that's kind of what it felt like, is like, I don't really know what I'm building. I just know that I'm starting to tell the story. I'm starting to pour into this concept of Thoughtium and create the space. And I now look back and think, gosh, that was such a great starting point for me. And I would have even tripled down on the time that I was spending on creating content, becoming a media company first before anything, building brand. And then allowing our services and our business to evolve based on, again, kind of the ethos of that brand that is universal. And that's what's so exciting about building a business right now. But it does take a certain mentality of like kind of stepping in when you don't have it all figured out and telling a story. And I think that's what you've been doing so well. We have a couple minutes left. I do want to focus a little bit more tactically on, like, you've launched this course, Creative Biz Launch, and you have kind of shaped this over the course of the last year or so, and you're pouring a lot of time into it. We also know that there's a lot of courses out there. So tell us a little bit about Creative Biz Launch, and tell us some of the ways that you are crafting this and building this that allows it to be differentiated. Because I've seen the testimonials and they're extremely strong. What makes a good educational course today?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of lack of educational content around like the creative space, the business space. So I think the course fills a really great gap, because there's a lot of courses on how to take great photos or take videos, but none about really how to get clients consistently, which I figured out how to do. And it seemed like I was doing something that other people weren't doing. And yes, I was working hard at it, but it seemed like it came easier to me than other people. So I asked myself, why is that? And the core of it is like the systems that I built out. So I
Yes.
just teach pretty much what's led me to success, in a way that the actual teaching part was hard for me to like structure this course because there's so much information.
Yeah.
Like the course is like 80 videos ranging from 5 minutes to 30 minutes. So it's a lot of info and it's really dense and a lot of it's really actionable. So it takes a while to get through it. So structuring that was really difficult for me. But seeking feedback continuously from my students, how I can improve it, how I can provide the best resources possible to them to lead them to success. That's really helped me seeking feedback actively from the people inside the course and then building on top of that as I get that feedback. But the one big thing I'm struggling with, and which is true for like most online courses, is there's just a lack of trust in like the online education space right now because
Mhm.
there's so many courses coming out and some might be a scam, some might be legit, and it's hard to know what's what. So overcoming that hurdle for me and like creative biz launch is difficult because I'm trying to like, I know it's good, my students know it's good. So I'm trying to provide evidence to the world that it's the real deal. And we do that just through testimonials, a money back
Yeah.
guarantee. So um, yeah, I think it's like the best training out there. But my job is to communicate that to the world and prove to them that it is, which is still something I'm struggling with and still learning how to best do that,
Yeah.
honestly.
We when we design educational leadership development courses, we typically structure them in three different buckets. There's the mindset, the skill set, and the tool set. And I think one of the things that you find in the educational space today is a lot of the mindset. And we say that the theory in leadership skills and capabilities is a commodity. You can find that information anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And as a small business owner, as a shop of one or two or 10, you don't have the resources that a LinkedIn Learning or an HBR has to develop the theory and the
Mm-hmm.
content. But what we have is the practical skill sets and the tool sets that have been
Mm-hmm.
proven for you over the course of 4 years. And I know that that's what Creative Biz Launch is chock full of,
Mm-hmm.
the skill sets, the tool sets. And I kind of chuckled when you said it's very dense, it's very action oriented. I'm like, if Chris Pieta's mind is behind this, it is dense and it is action oriented. And that's what you want, right? As a small business owner, when you're investing in a course on how to run your business, you don't necessarily need the mindset. Like you can YouTube
Mm-hmm.
that; it's all over HBR. But the skill sets and the tool sets are the differentiator.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what's so exciting about Creative Biz Launch. So, congratulations on the launch and
Thank
good
you.
luck. I know that this has been an iterative process for
Mm-hmm.
you. Um, are you ready for a quick lightning round?
Yeah, I had just one idea that popped in my
Please.
head. We were talking about brand earlier, and I think a big differentiator between my course and others is I built this brand up over the past few years. So when I first had like a small soft launch, people were immediately interested in it because they've been watching my content for years before I even had a course. So me putting in the time to build that brand the years prior before this business started
Mm.
was huge for me in the launch of it too.
I think that's a really good point. I think what I'm hearing you say, and correct me if I'm wrong, is 4 years ago you couldn't have started with Creative Biz Launch.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you hadn't gone through it yourself, but as well,
Yeah.
like you needed to build brand behind yourself and your services
Mhm.
before you could launch an educational product like
Mhm.
this. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of people that are saying, how do I start a business? How do I go on my own? I'll launch a course.
Mm.
And I think that might be the wrong way
Yeah.
in a world
Mhm.
where there's a lot of courses out there. You
Right.
want to, you want to put something out there that's backed by your own
Mhm.
experience and the brand that you've built. So I appreciate
Mhm.
you sharing that insight. Okay, lightning round. You ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm literally going to make these up off the cuff, which has been super fun for me recently. But Chris, one of the things that I learned most from you is you're so good at like providing nuggets of like resources and tools that you're using. So
Mhm.
I'll ask you. You have a lot of tools that you use throughout the day to run and optimize your business, and even to run and optimize yourself.
Mhm.
What are the two that you wouldn't give up?
Right now, ChatGPT is such a big thing in my business.
Yeah.
Like, it's just been a game changer. It's like having one or two extra employees. It's just that impactful for me in terms of
Woo.
like repurposing content, creating marketing emails, things like that. It's just been a game changer. The second one's hard. I've started using Asana recently for just project management. I've switched from like Notion, and it's been a big game changer in terms of like working with a team. Asana has been huge for
Mm,
me recently. So I guess that'd be number two, but there's number two has like 20 that are
yeah.
fighting for that spot.
That surprises me. You were such a big Notion guy.
Yeah, I still use it for certain things. Honestly, it's just a little slow with how it loads for
Okay.
things. But I still think Notion's great for your own like personal project management, and like client work. It's
Yeah.
great for that. It's just running a team. I think Asana is better for that. Maybe I'm just saying it as number two because it's new for me and I'm
Yeah.
still
Yeah. Yeah.
learning it, so having a good time with
Yeah.
it. I'm sure I'll find things I hate about it eventually, but yeah, we'll go with ChatGPT and Asana.
Number one use case for ChatGPT in your business.
Right now, it's repurposing my longer form content. So I'll create like a 15-minute YouTube video, and I can use ChatGPT to kind of help me repurpose it. So I can feed it like a script and be like, "Hey, can you create this into 3 different Instagram reels?" And it'll spit out like a 60-second script for me from that video, and be like, these are the 3 subject points that you
Mm,
should talk about." So taking
I
that,
love
what it
that.
tells me, and then like rewriting it in my own words has been just
Ooh.
a game changer. And
Okay.
it's just insane if you can prompt it correctly.
I love that. I want to teach that back because that was very practical, and I feel like this could be really useful. If you create and produce long form video content, you take the essentially script,
Mm-hmm.
the captioning from that long form piece,
Mm-hmm.
and you leverage ChatGPT to create the script for your 60-second
Mm-hmm.
blurb, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of caveats in there because you could do this and you can get garbage out.
Yeah.
But if you prompt it correctly, if you're using like the latest version, like GPT-4, and you prompt it with like multiple sentences of like what you want it to do, then you can really get it to, it's like a professional marketer on your team doing this stuff for you, which is crazy that we have this technology right now. It's free.
Yeah.
So
Pieta Productions, the overarching empire, your education, your product photography, your personal brand, is where in 10 years?
no clue.
Okay, love that.
I'm saying that now because in the past 4 years, I had no idea I would be where I am today, like educating other people on how to run this thing. So if I had to answer right now, it would be to build Creative Biz Launch into like the best training out there for any creative profession, scale the program to be like the best choice for education, even more so over like a college education for this. I think it's has that much potential. So that's what I'm currently working on. I'm just trying to make this into the best thing out there.
Mhm.
And that's been like my day-to-day life. And that's what I'm enjoying right now. If I'm doing this in 10 years, I'd still be happy. But honestly, I have no idea where next 10 years
Yeah.
go. So it's
I love that.
exciting.
I love that. That's a very honest answer, and I also like really respect and appreciate that answer, especially as a business owner. You're asked that question a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and we're maybe classically trained to have like that vision script, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But I think 10 years is a long time, and I think
Yeah.
we're fooling anybody as small business owners, especially in today's context, with a script in terms of where we want to go. So
Mm-hmm.
I think the most important thing is that you're building a brand that is timeless, which I
Mm-hmm.
think is super exciting.
Yeah.
There's probably a handful of folks out there that have just started a small business or are thinking about starting their own business. And let's say, each of those individuals has a list of like 50 things that they have to consider when starting a small business. Of that list of 50, what's like the one thing that like people typically have around, like that's down in like 45, 50 land, that you would pull up to number one or number two? What's the thing that people are underestimating when it comes to starting a new business?
I think the power of like what you're actually offering people is under us. Like what you're actually selling, your product has to be world class. And one, you need a really good product, and two, you have to get in front of people. For photographers and things like that, I think a lot of photographers have a great product, but they just don't get it in front of enough people to make a business out of it. I think that's lacking. Just getting your thing out there. And most business owners, I think, drastically underestimate how many people actually have to see your thing to actually buy it. Because a lot of photographers think they'll send their portfolio to 10 companies and they should hear back from 5 of those, when the reality is you have to send it to 100 companies, you might hear back from 5, and that's still plenty to like have a fully booked like quarter. So I think people just drastically underestimate the number of eyeballs that have to see your thing.
What's the best restaurant you've eaten at in the West Loop in the last 6 months?
Kumiko.
My guy.
Fantastic.
My
food.
guy. You turned me on to Kamiko
Yeah.
maybe 8 months, 8 months ago. And I've been there probably 6 times.
So good.
And it is not McDonald's pricing, that is for sure.
Nah,
but
save it for a special occasion.
it is a true experience. And it's pretty low key. Like it's not one of those like well-known West Loop restaurants. So if you're in Chicago and you love the West Loop, this is at Des Plaines and Lake. It is hands down one of the best dining experiences you can possibly have.
Yeah, it's so good.
Chris, I want to thank you for a couple of things. One, I want to thank you for stepping into this discussion, for sharing so much of your insight and your wisdom. But I also just want to thank you for the energy that you bring to this show. You know, we have such a variety of folks that contribute to the Navigating Now voice. And in so many ways, we love all of our guests because they come in and we get to kind of celebrate like the entirety of who they are, how they step into business, the life side, the business side. I love sitting down and talking with practitioners and entrepreneurs like you, because we can get, there's no depth that I can go that's not too deep for you, because you are so naturally in the work and in the business. And for that, I just want to thank you for bringing that energy to the table, bringing that energy to the relationship that you and I have. I know I can always count on you to reach out to you to say, hey, what do you think about this tool? How do you think this impacts your business? Thinking about taking Thoughtium this way. And you're just ready for that conversation. And like, that is why I consider myself an entrepreneur, is because I'm in it with you and I want to have these discussions, and it just feels so good to be at the table with a true practitioner. So I want to thank you for your practitionership as always.
Thank you. It's been great to hop on here and talk. Every time we have these conversations, I just leave really motivated to do more work and just feel like I need to impact the world more after these discussions.
These are the episodes that like we've got Amanda sitting here and like we could literally hit off on this episode and I would hold this mic for another 6 hours and just like continue the conversation. But with that, we will say goodbye to those folks who have joined. We want to thank everybody who are watching this live or who are joining us on the recorded version. We go live every Thursday afternoon at 3:00 Central. You can find this episode and all upcoming episodes at thoughttium.com/live. Chris, again, thank you so much for your time. Everybody have a wonderful rest of the week, and we will see you next Thursday.